Hi, Ghosties. I'm Macy.
And I'm Natalie.
And it's time to read some listener stories.
Woo, 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 woo.
You brought it back.
I'm very excited about this.
I like it. And in that spirit, I thought I'd tell you a creepy nightmare I had last night.
Oh, no.
Before we get started.
Okay.
If you want to hear it.
If anybody cares. I care.
So I've been getting really into dreams lately. You know this.
Mm-hmm.
I actually bought myself a dream dictionary and I was like trying to interpret Natalie's dream for her.
And it was all pointing into my life is going very wrong, which is scary.
Not really.
Most of it was like, you have unhealed problems.
It was basically where you're reaching a point where you have to come to terms with a part of your personality that you've been holding back and that you don't like and that you have problems with. And it's getting in the way of your future. And
That
basically,
is-
like, you need to look back and there was a point in time in your past that maybe it stemmed this problem with this part of your personality and you need to, like, revisit that and get over it. Your brain's telling you need to come to terms with it.
This is all making sense.
Is it really?
It actually just hit me.
I'm intrigued. But that's
All right.
basically what the first part of your dream said anyway.
No, I mostly just have cheating dreams, and then I wake up and I'm like, sometimes I've literally had the thought, just punch him in the head right now. Because in my
gosh.
dream, he was horrible. He was like, I hate you, I slept with your best friend, and I've never liked you, and I wrecked your car. And then I'm like, and I wake up and I'm like, how dare you? I should punch you. And then I think, oh, it was just
This isn't real.
Yeah.
That says more about you than it says
It's
about him.
yes, I know. But
Your dream, and basically what I read in this particular dream dictionary. So I don't know if it's true across all dream interpretations, but this one basically said that it's more about your brain trying to figure out how to work through things that it's going through, and your dreams will present you symbols and different like types of dreams to show you and like move you through these parts of your subconscious.
I'm into it. I'm going to start writing all my dreams
Do
down
it,
and letting you
and we'll
interpret
start
them.
interpreting them. Well, I had the scariest dream last night that I've had in a while. And for some reason, I always have nightmares when I leave my bathroom door open.
Oh,
So,
no.
In my room, my bathroom is connected to my room and I always shut the door. But there are nights where I'll fall asleep reading, or Jake will go to the bathroom in the middle of the night and not close it.
Never.
And now I don't have nightmares every time that the bathroom door is left open, but every time I have a nightmare, the bathroom door was left open.
Okay.
And I don't know what that says about me, my house.
I don't know.
I'm not sure. But last night, the bathroom door was left open and I had a nightmare. Basically, what it was is I was laying in my bed and there's a window out into my backyard.
Mm-hmm.
And there was this shadow figure standing outside, staring in at me. And I couldn't see, there were no defining features. It was just a shadow man standing there, staring at me. And I was getting freaked out and I would like close my curtains. And then every time I turned back around, my curtains would be open again. And he would just be standing there like menacingly watching me. And I was so afraid. And I kept pulling up my baby monitor to because my kids were
God.
sleeping, and making sure, because for some reason in my mind, he was heading there. And I kept thinking, are my doors locked? Are all of the windows locked? I'm pretty sure they're all locked, but am I really sure they're all locked? Did Jake maybe come in and forget to lock a door?
Yeah.
But I was too scared to get up and go look. Eventually, I woke up and saw the bathroom door open and I'm sweating. My curtains are closed. So I was like, okay, that's not real.
Mhm.
Pull up my baby monitor just to be sure. And I went and I checked my doors to make sure that they were locked because it was bad. But I kept having that nightmare over and over again. Every time I went back to sleep, he would be there.
Oh my God.
And it was so scary. I haven't had the chance to interpret that dream yet, but I'm hoping it's just something from my subconscious. I'm hoping that it's just me reading all of your terrifying stories and it is bringing this to me.
I was going to say, I choose to believe that it is just your imagination running because
I have to believe.
yes, because I already don't like that window in your room.
It's a little spooky.
It's too big. It's too broad.
It is.
It's not
Like, it should have been 2 windows instead of 1.
yes, it's one big window and I'm not a fan of it.
Well, the only thing that keeps me from fully believing that it's my imagination is the bathroom door part.
Mhm.
I don't know what it is. In the daytime, that bathroom doesn't freak me out. Like, I'm not scared of my bathroom.
I don't like your bathroom.
At night, for some reason, if that door is open, like, I can just sense there are people in there. Like, they're waiting in line to come get into my room.
Dude, I don't like your bathroom because the closet connected to your bathroom, it freaks me out to go in there.
Jake usually keeps that closet light on. So
Yeah.
there's usually like a little bit of light coming in, which I don't
That's
know,
even
maybe makes it a
worse.
little worse. Either way, I have nightmares when my bathroom door is open, and last night was one of the scariest.
Unsettling.
Our tea today is Bigelow Earl Grey, one of my favorite just go-to everyday teas.
Top tier. All right, let's go. You know, I would really like to start waking up early and making myself tea. But
I think
instead,
about it all the time. I set my alarm for 5:30 a.m. every single day, and I'm like, nah, and then wait till 7:30.
I have to go to work at 7. And so I've been trying to kind of blow dry my hair, maybe straighten my little Whoville pieces, because when I don't straighten my hair, my front pieces are like the mayor of Whoville. And I've been trying to get myself more ready at night. But then in the morning time, that makes me think, I already have my stuff together, and then I sleep longer. And it's so hard. But I would love to be able to wake up every morning and make this tea. This is like my favorite tea.
Is it really?
I think so, because it's just, there's not an overwhelming flavor. It's just a good
There's
tea.
a nice little flavor behind it, but it's very just, yeah. Solid, regular tea.
Mm-hmm.
Our first story comes from Estela. I just want to say I found your channel a few weeks ago, and I love it. I have so many stories, but when I was like 14, I was visiting my family in Mexico. I had issues with my dad at the time and was staying with my grandma from my mom's side. My grandma lives in a very small town. Right behind her house, there's only some fields and a river. There was a party in one of the towns, similar to a fair but with a dance. And when I got back to my grandma's, it was really late, around 1 or 2 a.m. I remember I was laying in bed when I got a message from my dad going off on me because someone saw me dancing at my grandma's. There's rarely any signal inside the house, so I grabbed a blanket and went on top of the house. The houses in Mexico usually have steps leading to the roof, and they are flat. It was now around 3 a.m. I was the only one awake, and I was standing on the roof in the pitch dark arguing via text with my dad. Out of nowhere, I hear a lady weeping. She wasn't saying anything, just crying. I knew right away this was La Llorona, because it didn't sound like it was coming from just one direction. It sounded like it was coming from everywhere.
I just got chills.
I can't explain it, but it sounded far but very close at the same time. Then, immediately, all the street dogs started howling at the same time. I bolted inside, but I know for a fact that was her. If it was a normal person, I would have been able to point out what direction it was coming from. It was terrifying. Every story from La Llorona is just frightening to me.
I was gonna say that. I don't know why those particular stories get to me on such a deep level.
Because it's basically the same story every time. Like I was there at my house in Mexico and I heard a woman crying, and it doesn't matter the variation. I'm scared.
Yeah. It's all the same, and so many people have that story.
Maybe that's why it's so scary to me, because it's like,
it's real.
Yeah. Our next one comes from Kendra. Just wanted to say you guys are awesome and I love your podcast. Several years ago, my family and I were desperate to find a rental home. So we ended up moving quickly into a house rented out by a rental company. This house was big, but the rent was not overly expensive. We found out that it was used as a halfway house for people recovering from drug addiction. We found drug needles in cupboards, and there was a strange piece of wood in the backyard that had a hand painted on it with an eye in the middle. It was freaky, but we had nowhere else to go, and it was home for the months we lived there. My mom gave birth to my sister while we were living in that house. The house was always cold because it was the middle of winter and it was not well insulated. Because of this, my mom spent most of her time in her upstairs bedroom with my newborn sister, keeping her warm with a space heater. In the mornings, my mom would come downstairs to get food, make tea, etc. On this particular morning, my brother and I were sitting at the kitchen table. The way our house was arranged, the table had a full view of the bottom of the stair landing. My brother and I observed my mom come downstairs, presumably to get breakfast. My brother saw her full on from where he was sitting, but I saw only out of the corner of my eye. A few minutes later, my mom comes downstairs again, this time more noisily, and we say good morning. We ask my mom why she came back down, as she had just come downstairs a few minutes before. I haven't come downstairs yet. We assume she's joking, but she is dead serious. She insists that she never came downstairs the first time. After some back and forth, we realized that my mother was not the figure that came downstairs that morning. It was someone or something that looked just like her. My dog never liked that house, and she would bark at nothing on those very stairs. She also started getting seizures while we lived there, and I can't help but wonder if whatever it was in that house had something to do with it. This happened to my brother and I in early 2017, and it is still our scariest true ghost story.
That is too soon. That's
That's very recent.
That's way too recent for me. I wanted you to say, oh, this happened in 1997 and we're grown adults now and it's all fine. 2017? That's too close. I don't like that one at all.
That was 8 years ago. Oh, how did that happen? Why did that happen? That's been up there for weeks.
I don't know.
For those of you who aren't looking at what we're looking at, Natalie has some wrapping paper just leaned up against the table over here, like across the room, and it just fell out of nowhere for nothing. The one next to it's still sitting there, leaned up against literally nothing. Do you see it slanted?
The face I made was just like, Harry. I'm sweating. That just scared me really bad. What were we just talking about?
Mimics.
Oh!
Yeah, my hand is sweating. Thank you, Kendra, for sending that story, and
we need to move on.
God bless.
We need to move on.
Our next one comes from Alayna. Hello, I hope you are both well. We are not.
I'm not well now, but I am in general.
I have just recently found your channel this year, and I love it so much. I have a few paranormal stories that I have experienced, so I thought they might be interesting to share. For background, I come from a Christian household, so I most definitely believe in the paranormal. Demons, angels, etc. Some of these could possibly be explained by other circumstances. However, I feel they were paranormal. Thank you for taking the time to read my experiences. This first story occurred when I was in either late elementary school or early middle school. For context, I am a senior in high school now, so this was a few years ago. I had been talking with my sister in my room upstairs, but it was late, so she went downstairs to her room. I was just on my phone doing nothing until I heard my door creak open. At first, I assumed it was my sister trying to scare me, so I didn't react much. After a second, it creaked open a little more. Then, a little more. I was getting annoyed, so I went to my door and told my sister to stop. When there was no response, I looked around, but nobody was there. I yelled out for my sister, but she was already in her room. I know this because I heard her door open when she answered me. I didn't know how to react at that moment because there was no way she could have ran downstairs that quickly, and my stairs are pretty loud and creaky. No one else was upstairs either, so it was impossible for anyone to have done it. I decided to brush it off, going back into my room, shutting my door, and sitting down. My door continued to creak open. Always a little more each time until it completely thrust open all the way. There was nothing I could do except pray because I was absolutely terrified. Eventually, I politely, despite being scared, asked the spirit/ghost/whatever it was to please leave. After that, the door did not open again. Throughout the years, there have been a few times that my door would creak open a little, but never to that extent. Now, my window had been opened, so there was some wind. However, the structure of my room wouldn't have made sense for the wind to have opened the door. My room is a square, and on one side there is my window, on an adjacent side there is my bed, then my closet, then my door. My door swings into my room, not into the hallway, so the logistics of the wind opening my door doesn't make sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
I like that she politely was like, hey, can you not? And it stopped.
And it worked.
It was like, okay.
That confirms it for me. It worked. If it would have just kept going, I'd be like, oh, maybe
it's some kind of like the pressure of the
something
wind or something.
But you
no,
saying,
it stopped.
Leave me alone, girl, and it left you alone?
Interesting.
I mean, I guess that's good that it didn't keep going.
Yeah, it wasn't trying to scare you. It was just working out what it could do. My second story was experienced in middle school. In that year, I would wake up every day at 5 a.m. before school. I would make myself and my siblings lunches, get ready for the day, and then go back to sleep at around 6 until I had to leave at 7:50. During this specific day, I had gotten everything ready, then fell asleep on my couch downstairs. I had a dream where I was exactly where I was laying, only I couldn't move. There was a lady with long black hair in front of me, her face and white nightgown hovering over me from the back of the couch. When I blinked, she moved to the foot of the couch. I closed my eyes, and though I could not see her, I just internally knew she was right next to my left side. Now that I think about it, she sort of looked like the girl from the Ring movie, but at that time, I had not even seen that movie, so it was not merely inspiration turned to imagination. I believe that this was sleep paralysis or something of the sort, because it happened right where I was and I could sense a sort of evil.
Oh no.
I hate that it moved every time they blinked. When we were talking about the binoculars game last episode, where you close your eyes and then open them again, my mind immediately goes to like horror movie where you close your eyes and open and they're closer.
And it's that sound, that horror movie sound.
Yes. And so that's what I was thinking the entire time I was reading that story.
And that's so scary because you think, oh, if I just close my eyes, it'll go away. And then it's like... It's right there.
That's why at night when I get scared, I don't close my eyes.
What?
Like some people will like cover their faces or close their eyes and just go back to sleep. I don't.
Oh, I turn the lights on.
Until I am ready to fully accept my fate, my eyes are wide open and I'm scanning the room and making sure.
Oh yeah.
Because you're not going to catch me lacking.
Yeah, no. I'll sit up and I'll watch a show. I'm not.
This occurrence happened just last year when I was a junior in high school. It was Halloween night and I had just gone to bed. I was laying down in my loft bed, which is like a bunk bed, only I have a couch under instead of another bed. We had one of those.
Mm-hmm.
I was ready to fall asleep until I heard tapping coming from under my bed. At first, I thought it was tapping a song, Clean by Taylor Swift, the intro, until the tapping became more random and loud. There was a sense of dread that washed over me and I threw my blanket over my head. Still hearing the tapping, I soon realized that I could not move. Out of fear, perhaps, I was completely petrified and felt like I was going to die. Like there was an evil under me in that moment. I do not know how long I was paralyzed, but eventually I forced myself to move my hands. Finally, I was able to move again, and I was too scared to turn the lights on, as I would have had to go down my ladder and run across my room. I stayed under my blanket the whole night. What is really creepy to me is the fact that prior and after, I have never heard that type of tapping under my bed, along with the fact that it was Halloween night.
Did I ever say what happened on Halloween night in my house?
No, because I don't even know what you're talking about.
Okay, so I have a Ring camera that's set up to where I can see my entire backyard. And anytime someone walks or the dogs walk by, it goes like, da-doom, motion detected at backyard.
Oh, okay. I remember this story now.
I don't know if I told it on the pod.
You might have. I don't know.
And that thing never glitches. If like a bee flies up real close to it, sometimes it'll do that. And it's happened like once where I clicked on the camera and the bee was right there and it scared me. But on Halloween, all night, it kept going, da-doom, da-doom, da-doom. And I stayed on the camera watching and there was nothing. Not a single movement. Nothing there. And as I'm watching the camera, it's going, motion detected, motion detected. And it has never glitched like that before
and
or
hasn't
since.
Yeah.
No, not at all.
That's crazy.
Just on Halloween.
That's really crazy.
It really kind of made me feel like, ooh.
Okay, so you might be mad at this
What?
if I tell you.
What?
What if, because we've been talking about this so much,
Shut your mouth.
like the veil is thinned on
Shut
Halloween and they just felt like this was a safe place?
This isn't a safe place for anyone.
Okay,
This is
I'm
my
sorry.
safe place.
I'm sorry. It was just my thought.
My hands have a heartbeat after you just said that.
I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry.
No.
This experience happened in sophomore year, but it also has to do with my loft bed. When I awoke one day and climbed down my ladder, the couch under my bed was in its bed form. My couch doubles as a sort of bed as it can unfold. However, it takes force to create the bed form. You have to pull the couch head forward all the way, then push it back to make it into a bed. Therefore, it could not have simply fallen into that form, which scares me, especially looking back on the fact that I heard tapping down there almost a year later.
No, we had one of those beds growing up,
Mm-hmm.
and that doesn't just happen. And if it did happen, you would hear a loud
Bang,
sound.
or it's broken
Yeah.
and you won't really be able to get it to stay back up.
Get rid of the bed. Sleep on the floor. Sleep on the floor.
No.
All of you included, that have heard tapping under the bed,
Only that one time.
become a
had
floor
an
sleeper.
sense.
Become a pallet maker. I love a good pallet, just a bunch of blankets.
There are various other experiences I've had. For instance, my dog would not get a ball from a specific corner downstairs. She just barked and barked. Along with this, the downstairs door that leads to my mom's office will open by itself quite often, especially at night. There are many times I've woken at 3 a.m. In one instance, I woke up at that time every day for a week. Anyways, I love your podcast. I love listening to all the stories and your thoughts on everything. Heart.
Oh, heart. Thank you so much. Keep on praying.
Yeah.
Keep
Agreed.
on
I'll pray
saying,
for all of you.
leave me alone, please.
I really do not like the tapping.
I don't
really
either.
don't.
I didn't know that was a thing until this podcast.
I didn't know that was a thing until it happened to me.
I know. And you were the first one to tell me that. And it still shakes me to my core. If I think about it, I get really scared.
It scares me, but it also comforts me to know that other people have experienced it and I'm not
me.
alone. So that's another reason why I love listener stories, because I'm not alone.
That's why I love having dogs, though. Because if I heard any noise in the night,
I had a dog.
I'm going to say, they're just chewing on a bone.
I
And,
had a
and I'm
dog.
not
It
going
was
to
not
check
my
if
dog.
they're in the bed with me. I'm going to believe that. And I'm going to
Just
ignore
let
it.
be.
Mm-hmm.
Our next one comes from Cassie. Hi girls, I am Cassandra, or Cassie for short. I am from New Zealand. Sorry if this is long, but I thought my small pieces of paranormal would be fun to tell, as well as bits of my intuition. My story is an interesting one, but just because I still, to this day, have no idea if it is me or my family's house which is haunted. It has been going on since I was little, things flying out of cupboards, etc. Just moved out of this house a few years ago. I'll start with my intuition because it's fairly recent compared to the other things in this email. It was a normal night going to bed, not late nor early, when my now ex-partner was watching shows on his phone. He is an insomniac, super hard to sleep next to sometimes, but anyway. I had fallen asleep as normal, but I was startled awake from anywhere from 12 a.m. to 2 a.m. and was in hysterics, absolutely bawling my eyes out, hiccuping and barely able to breathe. My ex-partner had finally calmed me down after probably an hour, asked me what was wrong, and I literally said, I don't know, but something doesn't feel right, as I just feel unbelievably sad for no reason. Once I woke up from a night of tossing and turning, we found out a close friend of ours took his own life the night before, and he had died at that time. I was in hysterics. So what I was feeling was because my intuition felt what had happened and started mourning sooner than I knew.
I am so sorry.
I'm so sorry. That's devastating.
I feel like we've had kind of a lot of people with stories similar to that one.
Who just know something bad or something wrong is happening.
Yeah, either right before or during, and they find out later. It's like just that deep
intuition.
Knowing.
Yeah. So I'll put it into order as best I can, but so much stuff has happened, and now I do a twice a year cleanse with sage to stop it all from happening as it got intense. Same thing with my rental houses. I did my cleanse before we even stepped foot in the house properly. Luckily, this was only really when I was around 5 to 9 years old, but I used to see really scary monster creatures in the corners of my room. But some days, they would be slightly different looking with different neon eyes in the dark, and sometimes full skeletal bodies attached to in the corners.
It always really interests me when people say that they see creatures or monsters or things. It's like that one story with the floating heads thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard for me to put myself in that space because I've never experienced that, and I don't even know what to make of that or how I would feel to see
Seeing a
something.
monster?
Yeah, like a creature type thing, not like an apparition of a person or a shadow, just a creature thing.
My mind would go immediately to demons.
Would you be more scared of a creature looking thing or a body of a person type thing?
I think equally scared.
You think?
Yeah.
I feel like if I saw a creature, I would think, oh, I'm dreaming.
Yeah, because you don't believe in all that. Like any creature type anything.
No.
My mind would immediately go to, that's a demon.
Not that I don't believe in it. It's just harder for me to go there. I don't know. I mean, I believe when people say these things. I'm like, yeah, fully you saw that. But it's just, I don't know if it would freak me out or if I could believe my eyes. Not that I want to see it. That is not an invitation.
The first thing I know that happens, which happens constantly, is our electric kettle, or jug as we Kiwis call it, turns itself on constantly, and that is supposedly my godmother's doing. She passed away before I was born and has done it in the roughly 7 houses we moved to over the past 20 years. We, of course, have had different jugs, and it always does it. So now, if the jug is empty, we get in trouble as it burns the heating element. The house we had lived in for the past roughly 11 years had the most traumatic stuff happen. Our margarine, fake butter, flew out of the cupboard, which was closed, so fast and with such force that the lid flew off as well and went right across the kitchen.
Oh my God.
My ex-partner has dealt with a lot of the super scary stuff which neither of us can explain. When it was the early days of us dating, he would stay over a few nights, one of which was at around 2:30, 3 a.m. He suddenly woke up to the feeling of being choked. He went to the bathroom and saw hand marks around his neck, as well as one other morning he woke up from having scratches in the shape of claws on his back. Wasn't me, I don't have nails.
This took a turn.
The physical manifestation of marks on their bodies.
This took a turn.
It's
I
just
was like,
so scary.
aw, the godmother's like, hey, let's make some tea. And then, I don't know, maybe she
And then
doesn't
there's
like
this
butter.
Evil creature that's choking the daylights out of somebody. My experiences were the reason I started to cleanse in the first place. As said previously, seeing the monsters in the corner. But about 4-ish years ago, I was getting ready for bed and fell asleep fairly quickly. I woke up suddenly at some point in the night, so I started to settle in again, facing away from my snoring partner, when I began feeling an ice-cold breath blowing on my face. My eyes shot open super quick, to then hear, in an almost silent whisper, "What a pretty girl." Then, literal silence. Not even my partner's breathing could be heard. Let's just say I went to get sage the next day. Haven't really had any experiences since I cleanse so often. Love the podcast I watch over on YouTube. Me and my doggo Hayes watch, which helps the day go better. What a pretty girl.
I hate.
In the middle of the night?
I hate it. I've never hated a compliment more.
You can keep that one to yourself.
Are you going to steal my face? Why are you saying...
What?
Why are you saying that? Like, get out of my house. Like, I'm scared. Oh my God, I hate... Every time you quote something that someone says on here, I hate your voice. I'm
sorry.
gag.
I try to add something to it.
It's because it's good and it scares
thanks.
me. It scares me because you'll be like, oh, and then they said, what a pretty girl. And I'm like,
Sorry.
It makes it so, I'm so in it, and it's a good thing, but oh God.
Do you want me to stop?
I ate fast food for dinner today because I was in such a hurry, and it's like,
Coming back to revisit
I'm
you?
gonna puke, yeah.
Not on the pod, please.
One day. I've already said it.
That over there situation almost made me puke.
It's gonna happen one day. And that'll just be for our Patreon listeners.
Okay.
They'll get to see me puke on the Patreon.
Please pay us $5 to see Natalie puke.
You know what? Some
That's
people
gross.
would.
That is gross.
I don't know if any of our listeners would, but there's a crowd out there.
We will pay you $5 to see Natalie puke.
No.
Okay, our next story comes from Savanna. So I just found y'all this morning. I love your vibes. Anyways, my family has always been spiritually open, I think. So my cousin is related to Mary Surratt. Death date, July 7th, 1865. She was a woman who was accused of taking part in the conspiracy to kill Abraham Lincoln and hanged for it. So what's the only thing to make sense? Curse your own family. She had cursed all the men to die a young water death. Well, her grandpa had passed in a lake. He fell out and drowned along with his brother. Same lake, same boat, same passing, different days. Anyways, guess my cousin's birthday, July 7th.
No.
Spooky.
I don't love it, but I like things
I'm
like
intrigued.
that. Yeah,
The
yeah.
connection is what I'm intrigued about.
It seems very like
It completes the puzzle in my brain.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's like putting that last piece in a puzzle where it's just like,
I need to find out who cursed us.
we need to go back.
Our bloodline. We say that like we live a terrible life. We are very fortunate and very
Yes,
blessed and very happy.
We're living okay.
We just like to make fun. Just to throw that out there. I feel like we're always like, spare change, sir. We're okay.
We're not poor tiny Tim, for sure.
That's your name. That's gonna be
My name in your phone?
Yeah. What is mine?
Stupid little rat person?
Yeah. Yeah. Anyways.
Okay. You gave yourself that name, to be fair.
I called myself that and you said that's your new contact name. So you gave it to me.
But you called yourself that.
Anyways, we got to move on.
Okay. My mom was always kind of witchy and always made me aware of ways to protect myself. Horseshoe over the door and or bells. Everything you put out comes back thrice. And more. When I was little, we would house sit for our grandparents. This house was haunted, and when I was 6 to 9, I hated being there. I loved my grandparents, but hated the house. And before I knew Annabelle was based on a Raggedy Ann doll, I was convinced that doll was the reason for my uneasiness. I was reading my book in bed, and I saw a shadow hand grab my hand. I was frozen with fear, and I'm a fighter over anything else, and pulled my hand so hard that I slipped off the bed. I screamed and ran to my mom. My mom was sleeping on the couch, and I told her what happened. And she told me she had a feeling but couldn't wake up. She had sleep paralysis, my first time hearing about that, and she couldn't get up. Sometime later, I went on a walk, and when I came back, my mom was on the phone and all the cabinets were open. We had cabinets going all the way up to the ceiling in this house that was at least 20 feet tall. It had tall windows on one side, cabinets full of trinkets on the other. All of them were open. There was no way for my mom to reach the top shelves. My mom was on the phone talking to somebody about it because she was petrified.
But seeing the hand physically grab, we've never heard that before, at least that I remember. Usually like they feel it, but seeing it,
Actually be able to visualize.
that's a lot worse. That's another level of creep that I didn't know existed. And the cabinet thing, why do spirits and things like to open cabinets? Is it just because they can and
Maybe.
they're practicing?
A way for them to manifest their energy. Another time in the same house, I'd gotten in trouble and sent to bed, and I could have sworn I saw hands creeping in from the only source of light towards my bed. I laid there and could not move. Nothing would let me move, so I started speaking the prayer that you say when you break bread, and they left. Another time I was watching TV, and our TV had a vent above it because, again, the house was 20 feet tall. I kept seeing something move in the vent back and forth, so I told it that it was not wanted and it needed to go. And it stopped, and it looked me in the face, and to this day I can see it. It was pale-skinned, sunken-in eyes, mouth agape. I started to say the "now I lay me down to sleep" prayer, and it left. After that, my mom got holy water and prayed and sprinkled water. I still never felt easy after that.
I started to like
I know, I saw
celebratory
you.
snap.
You're like, okay.
How do I take them back?
In reverse. I knew that would get you. I don't know why I was like picturing Smeagol or like Gollum.
I was gonna
just
say
in the vent.
I was gonna say
staring
the
at her.
same exact thing, and that is disturbing. These people are stronger than me. They experience these things and just go on.
As young children, I think we would have had to place you somewhere.
I would have to go. Where? I don't know, but I have to go.
Elsewhere.
Yeah.
Speaking of angels, I was driving home, and in Alaska, the sun doesn't set in the summer, so I lost track of time, and it was like 12:30 when I left Anchorage to get to Willow, which was 2 hours away. I'm fighting to stay awake, made it to Houston, dozed off, and I had such a realistic dream that a trailer disconnected from a semi and was coming to me. I woke up with the biggest adrenaline rush in my life and was all the way in the left lane. It kept me awake till I got home. I think something was looking over me and made sure I got home safe.
That is so scary.
That is terrifying, and I'm really, really glad that that angel or whatever got that message to you. A story from my mom. When my mom was about 15-ish, I think, my mom, my aunt, and their cousin used a Ouija board. Candles, lights off, spooky music, all the things. Well, nothing special happened. When my mom went to blow out the candle, the wax went up and splashed her in the eyes. Like, How the F does this happen?
Oh my God.
That's so scary. Not for a paranormal thing, like being burned in the eye by candle wax is scary.
I was just about to say, I didn't think about that being possible, but now I will not be forcefully blowing out my candles. That just gave me
a new fear unlocked.
Yes. Yes, very much.
Well, thank you for sharing all of those with us. Our next story comes from Jackie. Hi, I just found you guys on my YouTube For You page and I love the pod. Thank you. Anyways, I do have a couple of paranormal/weird stories. I will start off with some background so that you guys understand how far back this goes. So, my auntie from my mom's side moved into an apartment by herself. She lives in Mexico at a young age because she had my cousin and just wanted her own space. She started having weird occurrences, but she tried to avoid it as it was an old building. However, my cousin, who at the time was about 1 to 2, started saying she was scared and she would talk about seeing things in the apartment, and my aunt started actually taking it seriously. Since she wanted to just avoid a big issue, she tried fixing it by herself. Not sure what she decided to do because she doesn't talk about it to this day, but it just totally went wrong. A couple of weeks go by and my family starts to notice she is acting weird and try to ask her if she's okay, but she just gets defensive and she just wasn't acting like herself. To shorten the story a bit, she was getting possessed by the thing that was tormenting them in the apartment to the point a priest had to get involved. And she actually talks about how she once woke up from a nap and she was levitating. Ever since then, she feels like whatever had haunted her kind of cursed us because almost every female on my mom's side is now sort of mediums and have experienced really scary things. Now I would tell a couple of stories of things that I have been through.
What a hot start.
My very first paranormal experience was when I was about 8 and my mom decided to send me to Mexico as a surprise to my grandparents. As soon as I got to their house, I remember little me feeling so weird, but I just thought it was nervousness. It was not that. At night, the very first night, I couldn't go to sleep and was just tossing and turning. I had to sleep on the floor because there had been so many people at my grandma's house and I was facing the kitchen. I saw what looked like a family holding hands. It was a mom and her 3 or 4 boys. I remember feeling scared and shoving my grandma to wake up, and she did for a slight minute, and when I told her, she just told me to go to bed and that it was a dream. But when I turned back, they were still there. Every time I would blink, they would get closer. And after that, I honestly don't remember what happened. I think I passed out because I was so terrified. Again, the blink closer, blink closer.
I would be underneath my grandma. I'm not kidding. I would burrow underneath.
Story number 2. Still in Mexico, I went to my great-grandma's house and she owned a whole mansion. She was obsessed with those creepy dolls with lifelike eyes and had them everywhere. My older cousin took me to look at all the other rooms. She had an entire room filled with these dolls. I was just looking at the picture books in that room with my cousin when my aunt called my cousin and she told me she will be back. I feel weird, but just stare at the photos. When I hear creaking like a cabinet is opening, she had the dolls on those kind of display-looking glass shelves, and one of the doors opened, and one of the dolls started moving. I ran so fast out of that room, and when I told my aunt about it, she scolded my cousin for taking me in there because even she hated that room. This was years later when I was a teen. I'd gotten sick and was in and out of the hospital for a bit, but strange things started happening during that time. I would have awful dreams, and anytime I was alone in my room, things would move and fall. I told my mom about what was going on, and she told me she would pray for me before bed and did an egg cleanse on me. She thought that because during that time her and my dad had separated, my dad's girlfriend was doing some kind of witchcraft. This is supported by the fact that during this time, my mom started noticing that our windows would be filled with dead bugs and birds would hit our kitchen window sometimes. One day, I was home alone and on the phone with my ex and heard something fall really hard in the kitchen and ignored it at first. However, I did eventually check, and one of my pants had flown from the drying rack in the middle of the kitchen. It was impossible because I had done the dishes and had placed other dishes over that pan. I called my mom and she came home and prayed over the house, not only because of that, but also because she had been seeing a black shadow around the house for a while now. Another thing that happened while I was sick in the hospital was that my mom was in the hospital room with me on the phone with one of my aunts. Just to give some background, I had gifted my aunt a painting a while back. She said that the painting that she had nailed to the wall fell and flew across the room. I still have no idea what it was, but it did eventually stop. I hate that she was dealing with hospital, like being in and out of the hospital, and paranormal activity.
What a horrible combination. I'm sorry that happened. That is a legit fear of mine, making a witchy person
being
mad.
Cursed?
Yes.
You don't even have to make a person who actively practices witchcraft or like darker forms of witchcraft mad. You could just make someone mad who has access to someone who.
I know.
So they could just go find someone to curse you.
You can pay them on Etsy now.
I know. I saw that. That's wild.
I've seen some that kind of make me giggle. I'm not going to lie.
The marketing for those is funny. Don't curse people.
Please don't.
Especially not through Etsy.
Unless they deserve it. No, I'm just kidding. I'm literally just kidding.
No
Please
one listened
don't.
to Natalie ever.
Please don't.
This is going to just be about weird dreams and personal occurrences. Since I can remember, I've always had a really strong intuition. This started to actually affect me when it became a bit more scary. I would have weird dreams and go weeks at a time where my chest felt so heavy that it was hard to breathe and bad things would happen after. For instance, I had a dream about being in a cave with bats attacking me, and usually bats can be an omen. I was also having that chest heavy feeling, and a week later, my cousins got into a bad car accident. This happened 2 more times. Another time, my mom had gone out on a date with a guy late at night, and I had fallen asleep but had what felt like a nightmare of me being in a park filled with trees, and I saw a woman wearing a long black dress and veil covering her face. Then in the morning I woke up and my sister told me my mom was spooked about her date. I went to ask her, and according to her, the guy she went out with took her to look at the city view in the hills, and she showed me a picture of the place, and it was the same place I had dreamed of. Not only that, but while they were parked and talking, she felt weird because it was super dark in that area. They were facing each other just talking, and she says she sees a woman appear by the door. It was the same woman from my dreams.
Was the woman looking out for the mom? Was the woman
an omen of some kind?
What
I'm not
is
sure.
the connection?
I'm not sure. Either way, spooky. But I'm glad she got out of there and was fine.
Too. I feel very strangely about that one.
Trigger warning for suicide. Another story of that same subject was a couple of years ago. I went on a month-long trip to Europe, and while in Florence one night, I could not go to sleep and was having a really bad headache and just felt like crying, which was really weird. The next day, my mom calls to tell me that an old ex of my aunt's that I was close with when I was younger had committed suicide around the time I was feeling that way. I knew then that I was having a bad migraine because he had shot himself.
Oh, wow.
That's so sad. Last one was just 1 week ago. Unfortunately, my sister-in-law's mother-in-law had been fighting cancer for about 3 months and recently passed away. The night before, I was having a hard time sleeping and felt like something was telling me she was going to pass. That morning, she passed at 8 a.m. She was only 67 and was an amazing person. We're still grieving. Thank you for your videos. They have been very comforting during this hard time. I hope you guys like my stories. Jackie. First of all, I'm very, very sorry, Jackie, for you and your whole family.
Yeah, agreed. But thank you for sending your stories. They were great.
This next one comes from listener Inth. Hello, I'm glad I clicked on your podcast on YouTube. Now I'm listening to it every time I clean and iron clothes. So I was just listening to the dream episode and I remember this dream I had. Here's the story. Back when I was younger, I had this weird dream where me and my mom were running, holding our baggage to an underground brown archway, and we stopped there as we checked our tickets. I remember we were wearing these long dresses back in the day and I was excited to see large ships and such. Then I don't remember the rest. Fast forward 2022. My family and I went to Savannah, Georgia, USA for a vacation. My mom wanted to go there because she liked old style buildings. Prior to this, we didn't know anything about Georgia. We're not from the United States. When we were there, we of course toured around and we came across the same archway from my dream. I had the sense of deja vu and I momentarily remembered that dream. Then I enjoyed the rest of the vacation. Side story. When we arrived in Savannah, Georgia, we went to a park first. There were 2 children playgrounds. One was old, the other was somewhat new. We stood in the middle where the walkway is and chatted. I was enjoying the cold breeze when my eyes wandered to the old playground, thinking how sad it was that no one was playing there. Then I noticed 2 sets of swings. One was still and the other was swinging back and forth. There was a breeze, but it was not strong enough to do that to that swing. And only one swing. And I kept looking back at it and it was swinging for 10 minutes or more. But we continued our walk and we left the area, so I don't know how long it was doing that. It was the only thing moving in the whole playground.
Okay, playground, sweet. The arch and the seeing boats, is that what they said?
They were checking their tickets and they saw boats. Yeah, large ships.
This feels like seeing something from your past life and you just have a tie to Georgia.
Savannah.
That is so interesting. I wish there was a machine, if past lives are real. I wish there was a machine where you could just watch all your past ones.
Our next one comes from Laurence. Hi there, I love your podcast. I've been listening for a little while and I've made it a regular in my rotation. Y'all are just too sweet and cool. Sending my love from Toronto, Canada. Thank you. These are the stories of my multiple encounters with fairies.
Ooh.
To preface, I was an extremely independent child. I had one sibling who was older than me and uninterested in the things I liked, and my parents who encouraged self-sufficiency. Thus, I spent a lot of my childhood exploring new things alone. However, I never truly felt alone. I always felt like I was being observed in one way or another. Not in a weird way, but a curious one.
I feel that way.
In this story, I was about 10 years old. One day, my family and I were at my brother's hockey practice, which happened to take place at an ice rink close to this well-known historical pioneer attraction in the city I live in. This ice rink was very close, like just across the street, and to conserve the integrity of the settlement, the surrounding area was mostly large old trees. I was playing outside alongside some of the other hockey players' siblings, running amok in the forest between the arena and the settlement. We were climbing the old, huge pine, maple, and oak trees. It was fall, and the leaves had turned and begun to fall. I climbed a barren-looking maple tree, of which grew in a sort of V formation. It was strange, but looked easy to climb. There was a small ledge about 9 feet above the foot of the tree, which looked like a good spot for me to sit. I climbed to it and looked down at this little landing, about to wipe away the debris, when I saw something that has stuck with me for over a decade. I saw what looked to be a decaying humanoid figure laying with arms splayed. It was probably about 5 inches in length, and its face was sunken in, resembling a shrunken head. It had rotting leaves beneath it, and what seemed to be these cracking, translucent dragonfly kind of wings. It was thin, frail, and gray. This was so insane that I literally stared at it for a minute, then looked away and looked at it again to confirm that I was what I was seeing. It was there. I called to my peers that were playing nearby to come see it, of which they refused to climb the tree because the hockey game was over and we had to return to our families. I looked back at it and purposely took in every detail so that I could remember exactly what I saw, and that I was not crazy. It seemed like the fairy, or whatever it was, had passed and was laid to rest at a safe high point of the tree. I have believed in fairies ever since.
Well, yeah.
You have to at that point, I think.
I know.
Remains of a funeral?
I know that people can send us anything that they want and they can lie. I hope that one is real.
Me too.
I really, really want to believe in that one.
You know how I feel about fairies.
I know, and you know how I'm kind of skeptical. I want to believe in that one a lot.
Me too.
I'm going to choose to believe that that is true. I am. Macy
Believe
believes
all of this is
I was about
true,
to say,
so.
any cryptid or fairy thing, Macy believes in it. I'm still more on the fence, as I stated in the fairies episode. I want that one to be so true.
Yeah.
Even though it's a dead one.
That sounds
That's sad, but
yeah, a little bit. But that sounds like something you would have hoped to have come across as a child. Just like this little,
not a dead one.
no, but like a little civilization.
Yes. Oh,
They
my
have
God.
funerals, like they're intelligent beings.
That's
but
where
miniature.
I belong. That's where I belong.
In the fairy realm.
Small.
The next one is Tooth Fairy? ? In this story, I was about 12. I was at sleepaway camp, staying in a cabin, bunking with many other kids of various ages, some as young as 8 or 9. Someone had lost their tooth, making a big commotion, as the tooth fairy was obviously on their way. We went to bed, and they left the tooth under their pillow for collection. I was falling asleep on my bottom bunk, tossing and turning until I decided to stay awake for a bit. As I stared out into the darkness, I observed a small, golden orb with a sort of singularity pinpoint fly into our bunk through a cracked window with no screen. It flew around for a bit and then eventually left. I was so shocked that I whispered out to the 8 or so other kids, "Did you guys see that?" And someone from the adjacent top bunk responded, "Yeah, I did." Little to say, I stayed up pondering it until my body forced me to sleep. I don't know why the fairies are in different forms. Maybe they are just different types or different things altogether. The impression they both gave me, however, screamed fairy. I hope you find these stories interesting. These encounters helped shape me as a person. I remember them like the back of my hand. Sincerely, Laurence.
Those were interesting and cute and a great palate cleanser for all of the scary and sad stuff we've talked about so far.
I know. Maybe I should have made that the last one.
That should have been the last one because I feel like you're going to punch me in the face with the next couple.
I don't remember how it ends, but it's very possible.
Cute stories. I liked those.
Those were good. So thank you so much. I send all your fairy stories. I am obsessed with them. Our next one comes from Kiera. Hi, I just wanted to say I love the podcast so much and cannot wait for any merch you both drop. Oh, this was a while back. Ghost him. You can't see your shirt. It's all crinkled up.
Oh.
Not sure if you'll see this email, but this is my encounter/story. I'm currently 18, but this story happened when I was 14. For reference, my entire family is very religious Christians, where we go to church every Sunday and pray every night, etc. So anything satanic or demonic is always avoided in the household. Additionally, in the past, my mother and her side of the family have always had encounters with paranormal and extraterrestrial activity. So when I told them my story, they believed fully. My first experience was when I was 14 and I got a new puppy for my birthday. As he was adjusting to his new home, my mother and I would sleep downstairs with him most nights on the sofa and take turns during the night to let him out to pee. Growing up, I only watched religious-based TV. However, as I was 14 and going through a rebellious streak, I watched a show called American Horror Story in secret that is heavily banned in our house and stopped praying at night before bed. I believe this is the reason for all the events that later took place.
Pretty intense show to be the one that...
The one to get to, yeah.
I thought you were going to say American Dad.
That's
was like,
also a little,
okay.
a little strange though.
Yeah.
Like going from seventh heaven to
Seventh heaven.
to American Horror Story is just a lot.
Oh,
that's a lot,
seventh
Robin.
heaven.
For the first few nights of sleeping downstairs in the living room, nothing happened. I was kind of restless and sometimes couldn't sleep, but I put that down to the sofa being uncomfortable. However, about a week in, it changed. One night I woke up, or I thought I did. I'm not sure. To realize I was heavily paralyzed laying on my back, staring at the ceiling. I couldn't move a muscle at all, only look around with my eyes. The room was dark as it was nighttime, and all I could really see was my dog on my lap and my mother on the other side of the room on the other sofa. Then, after about 30 minutes of not being able to move, I woke up, or sometimes just fell back to sleep. This happened every night for a week. Then on the 8th time of this happening, I was used to it. However, as I thought I was about to wake up, it changed. The living room door opens. The door that leads to the back garden. And then this massive, demonic, smoky demon thing walks or glides through, and it's holding an axe. I couldn't really see its face, just this energy feeling, and all I know is that I was terrified and it was bad news. This thing then walked in and up to my mother and was just staring at her, sleeping for about an hour, and then just walked back outside. I then woke up. This happened twice more. The entire time I still hadn't told anyone as I was dead scared. On the 3rd night of this thing coming in and staring at my mom, it started to move closer to her. Scared for her, I tried to move even though my body was paralyzed like always, and this thing quickly snapped its head towards me and I woke up instantly.
No.
The next night, it came through the door again, but instead of going towards my mom, it walked towards me and would stand by my feet and stare at me. I couldn't move anything, and me and this thing would just stare at each other for around an hour until it would turn around and walk back out the door, and I would fall asleep again. This happened for 3 weeks in a row of both of us just staring at each other. I was terrified. However, I didn't tell anyone as my mother was also quite sick at the time and I didn't want to bother her. Around a month of this entire occurrence, expecting it to stay by my feet, it started moving closer to me, and it was leaning closer until we were face to face. Although it didn't really have a face, it was just this dark, smoky energy thing. It's hard to explain. When all of a sudden, it snaps its head toward my mother and shrieks. Then it kind of sank into the floor next to me, screaming. I remember seeing this ring of fire and it disappeared and I fell asleep. I put what in the Charmed because like when they would get rid of the demons and they'd scream into fire and then like drop down into the earth.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was picturing.
Why an axe?
I don't know. Weapon of choice.
Also,
it really scared me. The way it just like snaps its head towards whatever its attention is on.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I don't know, the way it screamed too, just...
It's too much. I think the looking at the listener the first time was the scarier one. Looking back at the mom didn't freak me out as bad because then I feel like the mom had either prayed or said it. Well,
we'll get to it.
Oh, no. Okay.
No. It's good.
I'll give my preliminary thoughts.
Okay.
The mom had either said a prayer or, had a dream or knew it was going on.
So it was like looking at the source of its demise
rather
than
get out.
You're thinking about me and looking over to listener.
Now you're my target. Yeah.
The next night, I didn't have the dream or encounter, nor the night after. And I never had it again. About 5 days of not having it, I finally told my mom. She listened to everything and said that the night I had that last encounter, unknowingly, whilst we were both asleep, she said that as she was dreaming, this man in her dream approached her and said, "Pray for your daughter because she is in danger. Don't hesitate and do it right now." And mid-dream, my mom prayed for me and prayed for me to be safe from anything trying to hurt me. However, at the time, she didn't say anything afterwards as she didn't want to scare me and wanted to make sure I was all right. She believes she prayed for that demon to leave me alone and that an angel sent her that message. I've stopped watching that show now and have never watched anything non-religious again as I feel like all the witchy stuff in it made me open to demonic presences. However, for something to leave you both on a totally unrelated note, we are, after 4 years, moving from this house and was stripping all the carpets and wallpaper bare when my father comes to us one night complaining about a weird burn mark scorched into the wooded floorboards that our landlord apparently forgot to tell us about. That was underneath the torn up carpet. I finally had a look at it, only to see the burn is right where the demon stood every night.
No.
Have a good night, guys. Kiera and my lovely dog, Tiny.
Oh, Tiny. No.
Did opening herself up to maybe that kind of thing when she wasn't used to it, I get that.
Mm-hmm.
But for the mom to have this encounter with an angel or some kind of light spirit coming to her saying, she's in danger, pray for her.
I was right.
And then, yeah, you were. And then the scorch marks being there where it stood all the time. Like it was just leaving its mark.
I don't like the physically manifestation of it.
So was her opening herself up to this kind of thing, allowing her to see what was already happening. You know what I mean? Like it was already there.
I don't know. No, I don't think so.
Okay, so she had an extra email. Hi, Ghosties. I wanted to follow up on my email of my encounter, talking about some extra information I have been made privy to in recent months. As I mentioned in my previous email, my father does believe semi in religion/demons and ghosts, etc., but has learned not to be bothered by anything due to over 30 years in the British military. I know when he left and I was little, he used to get very strong nightmares and PTSD from his time serving and would refuse to see a specialist, as he was always told growing up in the 60s and 70s that it made him seem weak. He would often have dreams of seeing his family die or himself, etc. for years. However, to relate this back to my previous story, this is quite dark and TMI, but all true and needed to share. Apparently, around 2019, 20, and 21, he had strong dreams of himself losing control and killing his family, meaning my mother and I, and would be killing us with an axe. Around when I was 14-ish, my father was also having strong, heavily detailed nightmares of murdering us all with an axe. Fun, I know. I never knew this when writing the previous email. I only just found out recently as my mom shared this information with me. I don't know if it's connected or just a weird coincidence, but I can't help but wonder if the same demon was taunting me was also taunting my dad at the same time. Thank you and good night. I just wanted to let you know that before you got too deep into your thoughts.
Good night. What do we say to that?
I don't know, because that scared me.
They said thank you and good night. Okay. Thank you and good night.
I am so glad that your mom prayed that night and was kind of pushing it away.
This feels like one of the darkest things we have ever come across.
I agree. All of it together.
I'm kind of speechless. Like, just the first part alone, it was scary, but I can move on. Knowing
that her dad was also experiencing something similar-ish or related.
Mm-hmm. Hearing the person in the dream telling the mom, your daughter's in danger. Was she really in danger?
I believe so.
Oh my God.
If not physically, definitely spiritually.
I don't know what to say. That's really dark.
I'm so sorry that you and your entire family experienced that, and I hope you never, ever, ever experience anything like that ever again.
Me too.
And I hope your dad is gonna open himself up to therapy if he needs it, because it is not weak, and it's good for everyone to be able to get their thoughts and feelings out there and find good coping mechanisms for things that they're struggling with.
Agreed. And it makes me sad that generations before us view it that way, because we know people in our family that view it that way.
Yeah.
And people in Ryan's family, I'm sure Jake's family. Whew.
That was heavy. Our next one comes from Kay. I was a youth leader at a girls' summer camp. One night, all of the leaders gathered together to have a party after the kids went to bed. When I finally decided to go back to my cabin, it was already quite late. My friend decided to come back with me, so we weren't walking alone. We were both only 16, 17 years old. Our cabin was on the other side of the campground. We saw a huge lion with wings sitting on the edge of the dirt road. We froze for a second and stared at it. It was swaying left and right while opening and closing its mouth slowly, almost like it was trying to speak. When I locked eyes with it, I was overcome with the need to go up to it. As I reached my hand out and took a step closer, thank goodness my friend was there, because she had the exact opposite reaction. She was absolutely terrified. She turned while grabbing my arm and dragging me away, running. As soon as the eye contact was broken, I was filled with cold chills and fear. We ran the entire way back to our cabin while screaming. The next day, we asked the adults if there were any zoos or circuses nearby that could explain what we saw, but there weren't any.
What is that?
I don't know, and I never wanted to encounter anything like that. Was it a demon? Is there some kind of weird cryptid type lion winged thing? I don't know. My mind immediately goes demonic though.
Same, and that's why I said, what is that? I thought you were going to be like, actually, there is a da-da-da-da-da.
There might be. I just don't know. I'm not too big in the demon lore. Like, I like to keep it kind of further at bay. I enjoy hearing the occasional story, but I'm not going to dig deep, into learning all about them. So if anybody knows, you can let us know. But that frightened me, and I'm so glad that the friend was there to pull him away.
Me too.
Our next one comes from Lauren. Hi, Ghosties. I got a few spooky stories for you, and a palate cleanser for Natalie, with a laughing face.
Oh, thank you.
Sorry for the long stories, but I didn't feel like doing a part 2 or anything. Feel free to pick and choose, or make them shorter if you want for an episode. First stop, the Hat Man. Story setup. When I was a kid, like 10, my brother and I would spend a week with my grandparents over the summer. Like, it would be my brother for a week, then we'd meet halfway and trade me for a week. Also important to note, my grandpa was a firefighter and would have to do overnight shifts at the firehouse. My grandparents also lived out in the country on a small farm. It was during one of those weeks where it was my turn to be with my grandparents, and it happened that my grandpa had to stay at the firehouse for the night. So it was just me, my grandma, and the doggo. We were sleeping, and I suddenly woke up. I sat up, not sleep paralysis, I could move, and felt something watching me. I looked over at the door, and there was this shadow of a man with a big hat. Not like a Western hat, but like a detective's hat from those old-timey movies. He just stood there, totally shadows, just watching. After a minute or two, I yelled for my grandma, and he just slowly turned and walked away. My grandma came in, and I told her what happened, and she looked around the house, and there was nothing. Now, we didn't really lock the doors, because again, middle of nowhere, but yeah, I slept in my grandma's bed the rest of the night.
As would I.
As you should. Second stop, my haunted college house. When I was a senior in college, I moved into a house with some other people. It was meh, not a dump, not nice, old and needed upgrades, but only got the landlord special, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Well, it always gave me weird vibes, but it was cheap and I needed a place. Not long after I moved in, I'd been there alone, chilling in the living room with my roommate's dog. Side note, I really miss that dog. And I'd hear footsteps and the sound of dog nails on the hardwood upstairs. Again, home alone, with a dog on the couch next to me. His ears would perk up for it too, but he'd never bark or anything. I'm sorry, I just realized that it had the nails on the upstairs floor, and is that like claws?
No, it's a ghost dog.
So I'd assumed it was just residual energy from previous owners. Then after a while, I'd see shadow people out of the corner of my eye every once in a while. There wasn't a particular place or time, just randomly. Then, the scary one. I came downstairs before my roommates and it smelled like gas. I freaked. I ran to the kitchen. We had one of those older gas stoves and the gas had been turned on but not lit. I immediately opened all the windows to air it out and called all my roommates. None of them had even been in the kitchen that morning. 2 were still upstairs in bed and 1 was in class and had grabbed breakfast on campus. Could it have been someone? Yeah. But I honestly feel it was something trying to get our attention. I don't know what it was, but after that happened, I said out loud, "If you want our attention, fine, but do not turn the gas on again." I felt stupid, but it didn't happen again. So I don't know for sure if it was something or not, but I felt like it was.
Hey, take all precautions.
I'm with you. If I were your roommate, I'd be down there with you, also saying the same things. And I am just glad no one decided to just light a candle.
Dude.
I don't know if that's how that works.
I was going to say, is that how that works?
But if it is,
someone's about to comment like, "You idiot."
I know. That's fine.
And I was going to ask you, if the gas is turned on, what happened?
Well, the room fills with gas, and I would assume that it, like, if you ignite it,
flammable?
it lights it. Yeah.
I don't know.
We're turning this into a whole other thing.
Yes.
Either way, glad that you caught it.
Me too. That feels sinister. I was like, oh, ghost dog. And now it's like,
no.
Gas. That's kind of scary.
I mean, have you seen those videos of the dogs jumping up on the stove to like get food or whatever? Like they leave pizza out on the stove and then like light the whole pizza box on fire in their whole house.
It's a ghost dog. We're fine. It's fine. Everything's fine.
Palate cleanser time. So for a fun little story, your episode today reminded me of when I was a kid, we had a dog named Chloe who got into everything. She was a lab, had a stomach of freaking iron, and ate things she definitely shouldn't. Well, one day she got into and chewed up my Barbie dolls. I was so upset. Fast forward a few days and my dad calls me outside. So I go, and there, in my dog's poop, is a Barbie arm sticking out as if asking for help. Sorry if it's weird, but y'all get lots of spooky and thought a funny one would be a nice change of pace. Love the podcast, binge all your episodes in like 3 days, and now looking forward to Mondays only for these. They make the mornings bearable. Stay spooky, Lauren.
It's disgusting.
So disgusting, but I appreciate the laugh in the midst of the horror.
I do too. You know what?
Like asking for help.
That's what got me. That's what really got me. Yeah, I really appreciate the little funny story. Thank you for that. We should have ended with that one.
I know. I'm so sorry. I've got one more though.
Oh no. But thank you. Oh my God. Loved all of those snaps. That was great.
Okay, our last one comes from Erica. Hey y'all, I'm a new viewer of y'all's, but I've loved binge watching your videos while driving. I work in outside sales, so podcasts are the only thing that help me with the long drives between customers. I'm from the Waco, Texas area, and I got so excited I found y'all after I heard y'all mention HEB one time. I've had a few personal experiences that creep me out. They're not particularly scary or outrageous, just odd, and this is my first time ever submitting stories or really telling anyone these stories outside of my family or friends, so I hope it all makes sense.
Love that.
The first one to come to mind is poltergeist happenings in mine and my husband's home. He bought the house about 2 months before we met, so we've been living in it for about as long as we've been together, 5 years. The first thing that happened was my husband's truck keys being thrown across our living room. Our house is small and narrow, so you can hear everything, but the narrowness makes it basically the opposite of an open floor plan and difficult to see different areas of the house. We were both in our kitchen, which is down a short hall from the living room, and he was cooking dinner as I was sitting there with him just talking about our work days. We hear what sounds like keys hitting the ground, and our dog ran into the living room to investigate. I walked in there to see her sniffing my husband's keys, which were now in the middle of the living room, about 10 to 12 feet from the hooks he normally puts them on when he gets home. I pick them up, put them on the coffee table, and go back in the kitchen to joke with him about him not putting them on the key hooks we had just put up. He gives me a blank look and says that he had put them on the hook. I explained to him where they were when I walked in there, and he was adamant that he had put them on the hook by the door.
Is the ghost or the spirit saying, leave or don't leave?
Like, get out of here, or I hope you don't find these.
Mm-hmm.
I hope it's the latter. I hope that it likes them and is like,
oh, I was thinking like, you're stuck with me now.
oh, okay,
Like,
never mind. I don't know what I like anymore.
I don't know.
Another weird occurrence happened to him in that same house. I was out having dinner with some friends after work one day, so he was chilling at home alone that evening. He was sitting on the couch in our living room when 2 wooden wall decor signs were literally flung off the wall and fell on the floor. They had been hanging in the same spot for at least 2 years before they randomly fell that night. We both believe our house is haunted, as we've heard multiple unexplained sounds, had things fall or look like they were thrown off a shelf, and we both have had weird dreams. One of my dreams was when I had my best friend sleeping over at our house. My husband was seeing some of his friends that lived out of town, so I invited my best friend over as she was set to move to California in a few weeks. We had a great night, laughing and talking and enjoying our time together. We didn't have a bed in our guest bedroom at the time, so she slept in bed with me. We settle in, watch a few more episodes of whatever show we were into at the time, and eventually both fall asleep. At some point that night, I had a dream where she was standing over me while I was paralyzed in bed. As I laid there motionless, she leaned down and screamed in my face. I shot up in bed screaming, "No, stop!" just to see that she was laying next to me, obviously shaken and confused. She asked what happened, and I explained my dream to her. She said she had been asleep until my screams woke her up. We haven't talked about it since. I hate that so much.
I think that's scarier than like an unknown woman and
Your friend? I don't even want to think about the implications of that.
No.
My husband's dream involved hearing knocks on our bedroom window in increments of 3. He would hear 3 knocks, then silence for a few moments, then 3 more knocks, then silence, and it kept repeating. He said it felt like he couldn't move or even talk. He still doesn't really know if it was a dream or if he was awake. I don't know if y'all would even really want to use my stories in an episode, but y'all are welcome to. I'm so happy to have found y'all's YouTube, and I hope I can buy some merch soon. Erica.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I'm shaken. I don't even...
Shooketh, if you will.
I won't. But...
Imagine us having like a little slumber party.
No.
And you dream of me screaming in your face like that in the middle of the night.
Again, I would wake up violent. I would punch you in the head.
I believe that wholeheartedly. I believe that you would.
So mad.
You've been pretty aggressive lately. Like your go-to is like, I will fight you for like the last week or so.
What's going on?
Is that the aspect of your personality that you're needing to face?
Maybe. My
Your
violent
violence?
side? Maybe. I don't know.
Thank you so much to everyone for sending these stories in. Again, we say it every time, but we love these.
They just keep getting better. Like it's so good. All of those are great.
I agree. As we said, if you are still here, hello. We next month are doing a full month of listener stories. So we're super pumped about that. Every Monday's going to be themed.
I'm excited about the themes. They're
I
good.
was writing one today or I was gathering one today and was literally cold sweat looking over my shoulder like, oh my God. I'm pumped. Some of them are pretty long too. So we've got some long episodes coming. It's going to be good.
I'm very excited. And if you're still here, I liked the last episode where people were like, I'm here.
Like
and
an ominous,
I loved
chess
it.
piece.
Yeah, so leave us something obscure to let us know that you've stayed this long.
Wait, what's the most obscure emoji you can think of right now?
Leave us a rat, because Macy called me a stupid little rat person.
You called yourself that. To be fair, I just agreed.
Sure. Leave a rat.
Leave a rat and say I'm here.
Just a rat army. I'm here.
That's hilarious.
Do
Okay,
it.
like Ratatouille. We appreciate all of you who are still here with us today. If you could please like this video if you liked it and share it with your friends if you feel compelled to do so. The best way to support us is to share this video with people, share the podcast with people, and get get people talking.
Yeah.
If you're on audio, please give us 5 stars. And you can follow us on Instagram at Ghosties Pod.
We're almost at 50K.
Oh, on YouTube?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's wild.
I didn't care about subscriber count until it started getting there. I'm like, ooh, I want to reach a milestone. So subscribe. Why not? Just do it. It's free. Okay.
But we'll end it here, and we will see you on Monday for a themed Listener Stories episode.
Yeehaw. Goodbye.